Hello everyone, and welcome back to Our Eyes on Indie. My name is Finn, and it is my absolute pleasure to bring you our review of Song of Nunu, a League of Legends story. It's here, it's out, and ladies and gentlemen, there is one word that was on my mind the entire time I played through this game, and that word is joy, ladies and gentlemen. I am an absolutely massive League of Legends fan, okay? I love the characters. I actually love the game itself, contrary to the fact that every League player hates the game, okay? I enjoy the game. I have a lot of fun playing by myself or with friends, typically with friends. But I am so excited whenever Riot Forge games get released. When Riot Forge got announced, this was one of the games that was announced off the bat, Song of Nunu. And wow, at the start, I was kind of skeptical. One, I'm not a big fan of 3D platform adventure games. They're just not always my favorite. Second, in my entire time of League of Legends, I have maybe played 2 games as Nunu and Willump my entire time. So I was not entirely looking forward to this, seeing as it's about characters that I'm not the biggest fan of. Maybe it's just me, but I just don't play a lot of Freljord characters, so it just wasn't the biggest exciting thing for me. Now, other Riot Forge games I've loved. Rune King, I loved it. Mage Seeker was awesome. Convergence is great. Hextech was also pretty good, but this is one that I was really on the fence about. And now I've played it, I have completed it, and it is time to give the review. So without further ado, let's get into it. So this comes from Riot Forge, which is Riot's kind of outsourcing and publishing of their League of Legends IP with the characters to let indie companies give stories from specific characters, specific regions, and put them on their own spins. This comes from Tequila Works, ladies and gentlemen, and like I said, it's a 3D adventure with some light platforming, light puzzle solving, and some light combat. And in it, you play as Nunu, a no-tie boy who has best friends with the last of the Yetis, Willump. And you are exploring through the Freljord. Your goal is to find the Heart of the Blue and to find Nunu's mother. She's gone missing, and so the adventure is about finding this Heart of the Blue that she wants you to go and to find her, and to, well, see what happens along the way. Have a few adventures here, maybe a few adventures over there. See what goes. Along the way, you're also going to meet a few other characters from the League of Legends world, like Braum, everyone's favorite Northern Freljordian hero, and Ornn, everyone's favorite goat man. Look, if you don't like Ornn, you got a problem, right? Ornn is awesome. And off the bat, I want to talk about the characters in this game, because the characters are so wonderful, okay? Even if you don't understand who these characters are in the context of League of Legends and understanding the lore, you can still get behind each and every single one of these characters. They are all fantastically written, fantastically acted, and the animation and just the emotion and expression that these characters have is phenomenal. Every single time I would watch a cutscene or an animation play out, I was either smiling or sad or laughing. Whatever that emotion was trying to get across, the animation just carried it. It is fantastic in this game. Just from every single moment. There were plenty of times too where I would come over a mountain crest and I would see this long vista and I would audibly gasp and go, wow, because it looks incredible. Everything in this game just drips with a care to it. And whether it's the animations, the vistas, the looks, it is all wonderful. And man, I just gotta say, I was a little afraid going into this again. Like I said, Nunu and Willump are not my favorite League characters. I played maybe 2 games total of them. And I was also like, okay, we're playing with like a young boy and a Yeti who doesn't actually speak any English, right? So is this going to be annoying? And it never feels annoying, and a lot of that has to go to the acting and the writing here. Again, I want to give huge props to that because I just loved it so much. The performance here, especially from Nunu, who you're going to be hearing from so much throughout the entire time, corresponding with Willump, but due to the fact that you can't actually understand what Willump is saying, you're really only hearing one side. And just the way it gets across is so well done. It feels natural. He feels like a kid. Not an annoying kid, but just a kid. In the best way possible. and you really care and are endeared by Nunu and the rest of the cast. Again, if you know who Braum is, you love Braum. Orn is phenomenal. If you know Orn, he's phenomenal. You'll also meet Volibear, Lysandra. Great. They're wonderful. Every single character in this game is wonderful and just well done, and I can't give enough credit to it. If you can't tell, I love it. It's awesome. Some of the best character stuff and the best animations and vistas you'll see. I do want to point out, though, I had a lot of stuttering issues, especially going through the first series. It petered off towards the end as I got towards the final chapters of the game. I stopped having these issues, so I don't know if that was some issue. There were no patches that came out since I started my playthrough, so I don't know what was up with that, but it just happened, so that is something to note. With that is I had some issues with stuttering, but it was never enough to ruin my experience. So when it comes to the gameplay, I said before, this is a 3D action, or not really action, but adventure platformer with some action in there, alright? It's got some light platforming, light puzzle solving, both of which were never to any point where I was like, man, this is like kind of tough or anything like that. But it is still good fun, and it feels a little bit to me, and this is gonna sound weird, kind of like God of War 2018, but just like a G version of that, right? Where you're going around, you're climbing on walls here and there, you have a bigger guy that does the fighting stuff, and then you've got a little guy who's there as well doing a lot more of the talking, and so it reminded me of that a bit, and I laughed to myself, even saying it now, because I'm like, that's kind of a weird comparison to make, but this is nothing like that, but it just feels like that, especially with the snow and the climbing and stuff that you're going to be doing. None of the puzzles had me stumped at any point in time. They're all straightforward and easy, and they just are there to give you something to do and fit into the context of the story. There are also, for people that like their collectible things, a few things to collect. You have murals, you have a song that you can finish, and then you also have poros. And if you don't know what poros are, well, let's just say you're in for a treat. Poros are the best. All right. Now, it was easy enough for me to find all the murals and the no-tie songs. I was able to find all of them without really trying. I missed 2 poros out of all the poros in the game, but that was the only thing I missed. Other than that, I was able to find everything pretty easily. There are also, I gotta say, some fun Easter eggs here and there that I'm not going to spoil for people that know anything about the lore of League of Legends or just know League of Legends in general. So you're going to get some extra out of it if you're a League fan, but by no means is it required. So again, platforming is great, super responsive, and with the puzzles, I also want to point out there are going to be times where you're playing as just Nunu and you're not riding on Willem, because a lot of the game you spend riding on Willem, but a good portion you still spend by yourself, and Willem's off doing his own thing. And the AI pathing is pretty good. There were a few times where I watched Willem kind of get stuck on something or take some weird things, but that was maybe about 2% of the time. Other than that, his pathing was great, and he would always be doing something. He's got all these fun animations where he's scratching his back or sitting down. You can hug him, okay? I love Willem. He's awesome. And every time I would watch him go and do something, I'd be like, oh, okay, cool job, buddy. And it was just great. It put me in the shoes, and I felt really immersed with it. It's kind of like if The Last Guardian didn't have all the issues. Now, I never played The Last Guardian, I've just heard enough about the issues with it, so it felt like that, where it was much better. The only time I had some weird pathing things is there are some puzzles that involve Krugs that you have to move here and there. Sometimes it felt a little weird. I managed to figure out how to get them to work a lot better as I did it for the second and third time. It was never a big issue. That's just something to note with some pathing things in the game. Let's talk about combat really quick, which is part of the game, but is not exactly something you're going to be doing a lot of. You're going to fight a few packs of enemies. I think in grand total, there were maybe just over 6 combat encounters, not including the 2 boss fights that are in the game. So again, this is not a combat heavy game by any shot of the imagination. It's a platforming adventure with the story being the main focus, right? And so the combat's pretty simple. It kind of reminded me of Spider-Man, believe it or not. I don't really know why. It's just because you've light attacks and you have heavy attacks, and then when you get enemies' health bar to their end, you can then perform a finishing move, and the finishing moves are awesome. The animations are just incredible and very varied. There's one where a wolf jumps at you, and then Willem blocks it, and Nunu throws a snowball at him, which freezes him, and then Willem's able to bash him and take him out. It's great, but it's never hard. I never actually died during my time playing Song of Nunu. The only times that I had any issues with like dying were if you fall just far enough, the game decides that that's too far and it resets you back, which thankfully has 0 loading time. But also there were some times where I'd go, really? I can't just jump right back down there? So that is one thing, but I never died in this game. It's not very hard in the slightest, and combat's just kind of a fun little thing. It's simple, there's not a whole lot to it, but because of the fact that you're not doing it much, it never wears out its welcome. And I do want to give a huge shout out to those 2 boss fights. They were really fun. They were just great. I'm not going to spoil what they are or how they work, of course, but just know that I really enjoyed the boss fights in this game when they showed up. Just fantastic. And the story as well, like I said, this game is very story focused, and I love the story. It's nothing crazy, but for someone that is a big fan of League lore, it does some cool stuff, and it brings up a lot of points for things that you know about if you've read any of the lore, especially concerning things in the Freljord. You're going to understand some things here and there that are wonderful, and it's just a joy. And that's, again, like I said towards the start, the one word that stuck with me every single moment I played this game was joy. I was just having a great time. I was always smiling. I was just laughing with the characters, whether it's Nunu telling a bad joke or Braum being Braum. I was sad when revelations of things were brought up or reminiscing on certain things like a missing mother. All these things, I felt all the emotions of these characters, and it was wonderful. And again, this game just brought me joy. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, if you couldn't tell, ladies and gentlemen, Song of Nunu isn't absolutely just go and get it. Alright, even as someone that, again, not a huge fan of Nunu and Willem in-game, not a big fan of 3D adventure platforming, I was thoroughly happy with this game, and for $29.99, definitely worth it. I do want to note, if you are looking for something a bit meatier with your time, this is not going to be it for you. I finished the game in about 6 hours, right? And that's not super long, but I am perfectly okay with that. It doesn't outstay its welcome. It does a fantastic job, and I loved every single moment. There was never a time where I thought it was dragging on or that I was getting bored. I was just having a great time and was full of joy watching Nunu and Willem go on their adventure together. And again, you can hug the Yeti. Come on, who doesn't want to do that? So, ladies and gentlemen, this game is fantastic. It looks great. It sounds great. Everything is wonderful. It's just great. There's no other way to put it. I think that Riot Forge has once again proved that this is a phenomenal idea to bring it out to indie devs, and Tequila Works has done a fantastic job. It's been like 3 years since this was announced, and it was well worth the wait. So, with all that said, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That's a review of Song of Nunu. If you liked it, go ahead and leave us a like. If you want to keep up to date on everything we're reviewing and checking out, well, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We do our best to get you new reviews and content every single week. And so, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week. My name is Finn, and we'll be here with our eyes on Indie.